Yo, what's going on? I appreciate everybody for tuning in to tonight's live stream. Well, we're going to cover some trending news as always as I give my attorney reactions to current event in the news. And today we're going to dive into Shannon Sharp and this $50 million civil lawsuit that he's facing. It's a state case. We're going to talk about it a little bit. As always, I'm Marcus, and I'm appreciative of everybody who watches, support, comments, likes, dislikes, everything. I'm grateful for the interaction. Now, licensed attorney, not your attorney. So this isn't legal or financial advice. This is just me giving my opinion and takes on topics and current events. Now, this is interesting, okay? Shannon Sharp recently, over the past few weeks, he had a deal with Colin Cowherd's sports broadcasting company that expired. So he is essentially in a position where he can get a $100 million deal for his services. Lo and behold, as soon as he started talking about the deal, what happens? He gets a civil lawsuit for an SA allegation that we're going to dive into. Now, I'm going to be 100% transparent. I have not read this complaint. I just don't have time to read it. So I'm reading it. If y'all haven't read it, y'all gonna read it at the same time that I'm reading it. So this is my legit reaction. I honestly haven't even really looked at any stories about it. I got some of my information from a family member to the channel who provided me with the information. So yeah, you all are gonna get my real reaction to this complaint. I will tell you, this complaint is brought by attorney Bubsby. We've covered stories, lawsuits that he's filed before. I'm generally not a fan. I'm just going to be honest. I'm generally not a fan of attorney Bubsby. I think he is kind of a money grabbing attorney, in my personal opinion. And the thing that kind of took it over the top for me was when he brought the lawsuit with the 13-year-old against Jay-Z. It was so ridiculous and so stupid and so factually impossible and implausible that I just was like, you know what? I can't trust anything that this attorney is saying. So we're going to dive into this complaint. Give me 1 second. All right, my bad. Had to adjust and open the window in here. But we're going to dive into this complaint. Shout out to Maddie. I appreciate you for dropping that first comment of the day. As always, thank you for your support. Round of applause for the first comment of the day. Salute to you. Now, before we dive in, I just want to show you all a quick preview because tomorrow's live stream is going to be very interesting. I don't know if you all heard about this case. This is what we're going to cover tomorrow. I'm just going to pull it up so you all can see the thumbnail. I don't know. Have you all heard about this story? We're going to dive into this story tomorrow. Clearly, you can see that a single dad ended up getting clapped in what clearly is a setup by a young lady he was supposed to go on a date with. We're going to dive into that story tomorrow. I think it's really interesting, but I also think it's really sad as well. But that's the story we're going to take a look at tomorrow. So, hey, tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we're going to dive into that. Now, let's go ahead, jump into this complaint. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up so we could dive right in. Let's see. Share screen. Oh, that's the article. That's the complaint. All right. So I always keep it up on the screen so y'all can see it. Now, of course, with any SA allegation or complaint, there's always a lot of very descriptive language that's used. So some things I'm probably gonna do a little word replacement because y'all know YouTube get kind of wild when you're reading certain things. But I'm gonna do some word replacement on some things, but I'm gonna keep it up on the screen so you all can see what's going on. Okay. Again, the Bubsby law firm. I already told you how I feel about them. Ever since the Jay-Z 13-year, they've always did these kind of victims against celebrities and wealthy people. But the Jay-Z one was so ridiculous and so hold on. All right. Stop raising all that fuss for nothing. Eh, sorry, I just keep having the struggle stream. Sorry about that. This dog was out there going crazy. I didn't know what he was going crazy over. He was going crazy like it was somebody in the house. But y'all know how I feel about the Bubsby law firm. I think they kind of ridiculous. It is what it is. All right, let's go ahead and jump in. All right, Jane Doe, individual plaintiff. People always use a pseudonym when they don't want to use their name. Is a 50-50% chance that the court would allow this all the way till the end. In this situation, probably not. I think most courts and most judges are on the side of, but if you're accusing someone of something, they need an opportunity. You got to name yourself. You can't be a hidden party. But with these facts, Shannon Sharp clearly knew who the individual was, and he released the name on his own. And we'll talk about that after we get through this complaint. Original complaint and jury demand. All right, plaintiff Jane Doe complains defendant Shannon Sharp and for cause of action would respectfully show this honorable court the following. Introduction. When a woman says yes to consensual sexual relations, a man with a man 99 times, but when she says no even once, that no means no. Defendant Shannon Sharp, a man who is accustomed to getting what he wants, completely fails to understand this basic concept. After many months of manipulating and controlling plaintiff, a woman more than 30 years younger than he, and repeatedly threatening to brutally choke and violently slap her, Sharp refused to accept the answer no and graped the plaintiff despite her sobbing and repeated screams of no. Defendant Shannon Sharp is 56 years old, former NFL superstar. He claims to be one of the most successful sports media personalities in the country. He is probably the most. Plaintiff is a young woman in her early 20s. In 2023, plaintiff was working out at a gym in Los Angeles, California, when Sharp approached her for the first time. She in her early 20s, and this is 2025. So she was what, 19? Doe was just 19. Is in the next sentence. I probably should read. I probably should read this before we do the live streams. Okay. Plaintiff was working at a gym in Los Angeles, California. Previously, Doe had noticed Sharp watching her during her workouts. At this time, Doe was just 19-year-old. Now, I will tell you, as 56-year-old man, bruh, you should. Hey, I get it. 19, you want to do your thing, Shannon Sharp. I get that. But that's that at 56, that's like a no go for me. Like that's going to lead to nothing but problems. A 19-year-old who works in the gym, she don't have nothing. You have everything. I don't see anything but risk in that scenario for you. All right. At the time, Doe was just 19 years old. At the time, she did not know Cap. At the time, she did not know who he was, only that he was another older man ogling her at the gym. Doe could tell Sharp was much older than her. She found him physically intimidating. Fair. He's a big guy. Eventually, he introduced himself. At the determined insistence, she gave him her number. I don't know. That's over the next couple of weeks, Sharp insistently pursued plaintiff. He consistently approached her at the gym. and attempted to contact her frequently with phone calls and text messages asking to meet up. Unwilling to take no for an answer, eventually plaintiff gave in and agreed to meet with Sharp outside of the gym. However, before doing so, Sharp demanded that Doe sign a non disclosure agreement or NDA, something the plaintiff found a bit concerning. I I don't even know why he would ask her to do that. I think that's kind of stupid. Um, what's good, E Todd? I appreciate you for tuning in. You just in time, bro. I think that's kind of stupid. You're a multimillionaire, three-time Super Bowl champion. You got a gold jacket for the Hall of Fame. You see this 19-year-old girl working at the gym. She clearly ain't got don't got what is it? A pot to piss in. Why are you gonna have her sign an NDA? Even it literally makes no sense because what are you gonna do if she violates it? Sue her for any money? She don't got money to pay you anything. So even if she were to sign an NDA, she's she has no incentive to not break it because she doesn't have any money. What he's gonna do? Sue her for everything she got? Her gym members, her gym paycheck? It doesn't even make any sense. All right. The plaintiff found the NDA a bit concerning. She wondered why Schott was so insistent on her signing an NDA. She refused. Despite his repeated efforts to get her to sign, she refused time. And again, eventually he dropped the issue and invited her to his house. All right. So she didn't sign the NDA. I don't even know why he if you're offering someone an NDA and they aren't signing it, you should at least, if you got the wherewithal to offer them an NDA, even though she has no means to, you can't enforce it against her because she broke. eh, What is the point of okay? She not signing it, invite her over anyway. That defeat. If someone doesn't sign the NDA, that should be did not pass go, did not collect $200. I'm not inviting you to my house. She refused to sign, and Shannon was like, you know what? Allegedly, come on over to my house, and he dropped the issue and invited her to his house. What followed was the beginning of a rocky consensual relationship that lasted nearly 2 years. Okay, first thing I'm looking at is before any allegations occurred, she's conceding right now that they were in a consensual relationship. Whether that relationship was good, bad, indifferent, she's already conceding that they were in a relationship for 2 years. The relationship was very unequal. Sharp was more than 30 years older, correct? Is considerably wealthier. He's actually ridiculously wealthier. Like she has nothing. Is physically much larger and exponentially stronger. Sharp is famous and has power. Plaintiff and Sharp saw each other on his terms and on his schedule. She worked at the gym. He's a busy person. Makes sense? As often as 4 times a week. Over time, plaintiff began to see Sharp's true nature. Now, I would like to know when was the date that you noticed his true nature. You already said you were in a relationship that was contentious for 2 years. How long before you saw his true nature? 6 months, 4 months, 2 weeks, 2 days, a year? What was it? She found him to be dishonest about his whereabouts. He would lie about seeing other women while insisting to her that she and he were exclusive. Do y'all believe that? I'm gonna be honest, just reading that, I don't believe it. Why would a 56-year-old grown ass man have to lie to a 19-year-old about what they were doing, where they was with? Like you, Shannon Sharp, bro. I just don't. I don't know. Maybe he was. I think that would be goofy of someone of Shannon Sharp's access, fame, prestige, money, power to have to feel like there's some accountability. I just don't think that seems a little far fetched to me. But she's this is a complaint. These are allegations, but that seems a little far fetched to me. Right, I agree. Yeah, 19, bruh. Nah, couldn't do it. It is actually nothing there but 100% risk. All right, he would lie about seeing other women while insisting to her that she and he were exclusive. He often manipulated her, at times being sweet and loving to get what he wanted. and at other times being angry and aggressive to achieve his goals. She discovered over time that Sharp was extremely emotional and possessed an uncontrollable temper. He displayed the characteristics of a true narcissist. He wielded his power, his influence, and his celebrity to control plaintiff and get exactly what he wanted, whenever he wanted it. All the while, jealousy guarding what he considered his for himself. By October 2024, Sharp's behavior had grown progressively worse. Okay, beyond so from 23 to 24, so maybe a year later, somewhere around that, his behavior has grown progressively worse beyond anything plaintiff had experienced with him before. At this point, he was insistent upon recording their activities, sometimes without her knowledge. All right, now let's just be realistic here. All right, this is this is just me. I don't know. I would advise. I'm not. If this isn't advice, this is just my personal non-legal opinion. Generally, you should not. It's a low life thing to do to record someone's sexual escapades against their will. I agree with that 100%. But if I woke up tomorrow morning and I had 2 million subscribers and everyone was watching every video that I ever made and I became a multi-millionaire overnight, I'm going to have cameras everywhere in my house. I'm recording everything. All the cameras are going to be hidden. I'm not going to tell you that I'm recording, but if you come over here and a clap session were to go on, it would be recorded. You know why? I would rather deal with the consequences of you suing me for having a recording against your knowledge or consent. I would rather deal with the consequences of that than deal with some type of allegation that you were going to lodge out there and I don't got any recording of anything. That's just me. That's what I would do. I can't speak for everybody else, but like right now, I got cameras at my house and none of them are on the inside because it's nothing in here to get. It's absolutely nothing in here to get. So, but if I'm worth tens of millions of dollars, it's probably going to change things up. But generally, I agree that you should not record people against their will and or consent. But there is possible where you can reach a level of fame, wealth, prestige, where for me, I'm probably recording everything. I'm probably going to actually have a cameraman in the house actually recording everything as if I was on reality TV. Like, no, if you over here, it's being recorded. That would be how I would look at it. I think that's the safest way to go. All right. Sharp would repeatedly tell Doe that he wanted to do things to her that would make no other man want her. By this point, Sharp was no longer able to credibly maintain that the relationship was exclusive. He had, at this point, accidentally or purposely to advance his career, went live on Instagram while having sex with another woman. That was on purpose. You can't go live. You know what I got to do before I go on the live stream? Do you want to go live? Yes. What is the title? What is the description? Do you have a thumbnail? You have to jump over like 5 to 6 hurdles before you go live on a platform. So I don't see how you could go live accidentally unless you purposely did it. That's just my personal take. All right. All right. So let's see. He went live on Instagram while having sex with another woman. Sharp flew into fits of anger when the plaintiff noted his infidelity to their relationship or called him out about his extraneous activities. What had once been manipulation, control, and intimidation now became something far more dangerous and sinister. Sharp even figured out how to get into Doe's apartment complex without her permission. Sharp made it clear that what Doe wanted was of no moment that Sharp would get what he wanted when he wanted it. In October of 2024, Shannon Sharp violently assaulted and raped the plaintiff on two different times in Las Vegas, Nevada, blatantly ignoring her request for him to stop. He did it again in January. Now, plaintiff left Nevada temporarily to escape defendant Shannon Sharp. She now seeks justice through this action and other means. Plaintiff seeks compensatory and punitive damages in this matter in excess of $50 million, which I think is too much. Now, real quick, we got to talk about a little bit of a distinction between this case and the other cases we've covered in the past. We covered the case against Diddy. We covered the allegation against Jamie Foxx. We covered a few of these uh, types of allegations. Okay. Point number one: the Bubsby law firm. To me, they giving money grab vibes. Ever since the bogus case against Jay-Z with the 13-year-old that was clearly capped. That's just my personal opinion on how his firm operates. Agree or disagree? The interesting thing, though, with this case, all those other cases, or the majority of those other cases, were brought because New York had a statute that allowed people to revive or blow fresh life into assault cases that may have been outside of the statute of limitations. So all of those cases we saw, they were happening in '90s and the 2000s, all of this crazy stuff. One good thing for both sides, both the defendant Shannon Sharp's team and both for Jane's Doe team, maybe not as much for Jane Doe's team. These are relatively recent events. They're talking about events here that occurred in January of 2025. Why is this a good thing? Because the closer the proximity we are to the actual event occurring, the more evidence that there's going to be. So there's going to be text messages, DMs, all of that stuff. Physical evidence may or may not exist. Probably not going to exist because with physical evidence, we talked about it before. You normally got 7 to 10 days to try to capture that evidence before bruises, wounds start to heal, things get contaminated. But the fact that this case is really, really ripe, 2023 through 2025, there's going to be a lot of evidence that could be used to potentially sway a jury in either Shannon Sharp's favor or the favor of Jane Doe. Yeah, Bubsby is wild. He's actually low key terrible. All right, so let's go back. All right, the parties: plaintiff Jane Doe, defendant Shannon Sharp, jurisdiction and venue. It happened in Nevada, so that's where the case is filed. Factual allegations related to all claims. Former NFL superstar, sports media, 14-year career, 3-time Super Bowl champion. That's Shannon Sharp right there. Man, that dude looked bigger now than he did when he was playing. Upon retirement, he transferred into sports broadcasting and quickly achieved success. Sharp spent several years at CBS Sports before moving to Fox, where over a decade he built a reputation for his strong opinion and hot takes. Sharp legacy extends beyond the field. Now, this is we jumped around a little bit, but this part is important. Sharp's legacy extends beyond the field and media, and in one glaring area, it is not good. Sharp has a documented history of abusing and mistreating women. As an example, he is currently a defendant in a lawsuit before the Supreme Court of New York. I want to look at the footnote. That's crazy that I never heard of this case. Like, I've never heard of this case. Michelle Evans versus Shannon Sharp. I might look that up one day just for shits and giggles. All right, but okay, he's currently a defendant in a lawsuit before the Supreme Court of New York. Now, that could be interesting because it's at the Supreme Court. So, a case starts in like district court, then maybe it goes to superior court or whatever you call it, then it goes to Supreme Court or the appeals court, then the Supreme Court. By the time a case gets to the court of Supreme Court, they may be looking at one area, and it may not be guilt or innocence, or whether or not Sharp did something or whether he didn't do it. It could be some unique legal issue related to that case. So the fact that he's a defendant in a case that's before the Supreme Court, how they just articulate that, to me, it doesn't mean one thing or another, because I know when a case reaches the Supreme Court, they're looking at a really small or specific legal issue. That issue, it may be the guilt of the evidence. It may be whether a piece of evidence was inappropriately admitted, and do they got to go back and do everything over. So he's a defendant in a case before the Supreme Court. I need to know specifically what the issue is. All right, facing claims that a woman, facing claims from a woman of intentional infliction of emotional distress, among other allegations. Many of the factual allegations in the New York case are eerily similar to the actions towards plaintiff here. According to the New York lawsuit, Sharp forcefully subdued the plaintiff in that case, forcing her to her knees and subjecting her to non-consensual, we know, despite her repeated protests. When she resisted, he persisted. He would not take no for an answer. According to the New York lawsuit, the plaintiff therein feared for her safety, just as the plaintiff fears for her safety now. The New York lawsuit further alleged that Sharp escalated the non-consensual cheek clappage, all while telling her that he would make it so no other man would want her. These words were apparently not a one-time thing. Plaintiff herein too has heard Sharp say those exact words to her. Which is possible, but it's also possible that you read that case and saw what was alleged and threw it in this lawsuit. It is Bubsby. Let's just be honest here. All right, in September 2024, Sharp live streamed himself on accident, having a cheap clapping session with a woman. Upon information and belief, he did so on purpose to seek media exposure and to attract social media views and attention. To live stream himself, he would have to deliberately swipe right on Instagram, activate the live feed. Sharp claims it was accidental, however, discreetly recording this session without his partner's knowledge is something he is known to do. He did so with the plaintiff herein. Plaintiff discovered that Sharp had been secretly recording their encounters without her consent. When she confronted him, he summarily dismissed her concerns, claiming the videos were for his own personal use. That too was a lie. Upon information and belief, Sharp on multiple occasions shared recordings with his friends and associates. That's crazy work. Like, now, if I'm a multimillionaire, I'm recording everything that happened in my house, but I'm not sharing it with nobody. I'm keeping it in the archives just in case, for two reasons. Two reasons. One, if you bring up a lawsuit against me, I'm gonna be like, hey, I secretly recorded it, but it says that I'm in the clear. And I can see somebody wanting to relive a cheap clapping sessions. So those are the only two reasons I can see you actually wanting to pull out those recordings. To show it to a third party is actually wild. All right, he would show it to his friends and associates. At one point, he even forced plaintiff to have sex with him while FaceTiming one of his childhood friends named Bucket. That's crazy. That's crazy. I don't know. I don't know. I don't believe that. FaceTime one of your friends. I don't know. Do y'all really believe that happened? He cheek clapping sessions to FaceTime one of his friends named Bucket. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit on the beginning, MDJ. Literally, you can file a complaint under a pseudonym, uh, and it's up to the court if the court wants to allow you to do that. Typically, the court will look at a few factors. The court are going to look at the rights of the accused. If someone is accusing you of something, you have a right for that person to drop their name and identify themselves. So the courts are going to look at the rights of the accused. The courts are going to look at, does the person have a history of violence or threats? Does a person have the means, motive, opportunity to actually like carry out those threats? So in this case, it's a 50-50 shot. I don't think this would be a case where the judge would be like, yeah, we're going to keep allowing you to use Jane Doe. I highly doubt that. I think the court will be more inclined to say, you know what? You're making these accusations. Mr. Sharp has had some complaints, but he doesn't have a history, a track record of violence. I mean, this isn't Diddy we're talking about here. So it would be more likely than not that the court would say, y'all going to have to drop your name, identify yourself. Yeah, I agree. Hey, OB, I agree. 52, a 19-year-old who work at a gym is crazy work when you're Shannon Sharp. There's nothing but risk there. I agree. You, yeah, I just don't believe it. Like, I don't know. I'm not an iPhone guy. Here, I got an iPhone right here. But when you FaceTime with somebody, and most people with iPhone, like, you know how hard it is to be like, hey, hold on real quick. I got great friends, friends I knew from the sandbox. Not once ever during the cheek clapping session was I like, you know what? Hey man, this is great. Hey, this is great, man. I'm having the time of my life, man. You should see it. Like that's actually crazy. Like I just don't believe that this dude did that, all that while holding the phone. Like I just don't. I don't know. I don't know. I find that part of this story hard to believe. Okay, you found out he was secretly recording you, and then at one time he did it while he was recording you, FaceTiming himself. Like, yeah, Bucket, look at this. Ah, Bucket, look at this. This is crazy, man. Remember how we used to do back in the day? Like, this is actually insane. This actually makes it less believable for me, just in general. Not saying it can't happen, but two things that stand out is just not making sense. Why would Shannon Sharp lie about being in a monogamous relationship with a 19-year-old who work at the gym? I just don't see that. Like, I'm not even Shannon Sharp. But if I'm single and I'm dating a girl who 19, I'm be like, yeah, of course I'm seeing other women. What the hell you think? Like, if you don't like it, go back to Planet Fitness. Literally, that's what I would say. And I'm just a normal mere mortal. If somebody rich as hell is Shannon Sharp, there's no way they're gonna be like, oh, it's just us and do all this lying and trickery trying to appease some 19-year-old. I just can't see that happening. So Bucket is now so Bucket is now her new safe word. I don't know. I just not believe in the bucket thing. It sounded a little fishy to me. That's just me. I don't know. All right, let's go ahead and jump back into this complaint. Oh, Bucket got thrown into this and he didn't even do anything. While Faith at one point he even forced plaintiff to have sex with him while FaceTiming one of his childhood friends named Bucket. That's a crazy ass name. I want to know how he got that name. Whenever plaintiff would get up whatever plaintiff would get up the courage to object to Sharp's outrageous conduct, which was not often, he would aggressively and angrily put her back in her place. Shannon Sharp isn't just a sports icon, he's something far worse. He is a flawed, narcissistic individual who has spent years using his fame, power, and influence to manipulate, control, subjugate, and violate women. With this suit, plaintiff intends to put an end to this egregious conduct. Now, all right, they're probably going to go into it more detail. January 23rd. All right, January 2023, the beginning of a consensual but deeply manipulative relationship. Because in this previous paragraph we read, when he said he put her back in place, you got to spell out what does that mean. I don't know what putting somebody back in their place means. Like to some people, putting them back in place could be like a physical act, like grabbing, choking, hitting. But to other people, physical putting them back in place could be just yelling, or putting them back in place could be using some verbal judo to manipulate somebody to do something without even yelling or raising your voice. So I'm hoping that they spell that out. January 2023, the beginning of a consensual relationship, but deeply manipulative relationship. And after we read this, I asked a young lady about this today, and I want to get y'all opinion on it. Sharp first met the plaintiff at the gym. He would watch Doe in such a way so that she knew he was watching her. One day, plaintiff finished his set and turned around. She found Sharp standing inches behind her. That's creep status. Sharp told her that he had noticed her at the gym and wondered why she had not introduced herself. This was the first time they spoke. Plaintiff at the time, who had just turned 20 years old, was caught off guard and was face to face with a 54-year-old man that she had never met. Plaintiff did not know at the time who Shannon Sharp was. I I don't believe that. After that Cat Williams interview, I think everybody knew who Shannon Sharp is. Hell, my mother know who Shannon Sharp is, and she's 75. All right. She did not know what to say nor how to feel about his advances. During their first conversation, Sharp proposed a challenge, a competition to see who could lean out faster. The prize, if plaintiff won, he would buy her fake tits. That's a win-win situation. All right, if you win, you get fake breasts that I could enjoy. If I win, you get fake breasts that I can enjoy. That's a win-win scenario. All right, plaintiff was stunned. The implication that she needed or wanted such a thing was wildly inappropriate. Hearing it from a stranger more than 30 years her senior made it even more disturbing. Throughout their subsequent encounters at the gym, Sharp made sure plaintiff understood who he was, a celebrity and TV personality. Over in the following weeks, Sharp made himself unavoidable. He was at the gym when she was. He consistently called and texted demanding she come to his Beverly Glen mansion. Plaintiff repeatedly declined and made up excuses to make her seem too busy to see him, but he would not stop. Sharp would not be deterred. Eventually, plaintiff gave in. Just had to check something real quick. Okay. Sharp would not be deterred. Eventually, plaintiff gave in, but before she could meet him outside of the gym, Sharp made another demand. She had to sign an NDA. He refused to explain why and would not let her see a copy of the proposed agreement. He simply insisted she sign one. Plaintiff refused after multiple attempts. When he realized she would not cooperate, he finally dropped the issue. Revealed from the start the violent, aggressive, and controlling nature of Shannon Sharp. This is important. One of the first things we said was, you said it's turned violent and you found out he was violent. How long into the relationship did it take before you found out he was violent, aggressive, controlling? I could care less about the controlling aspect, because a person can be controlling and not violent and or aggressive. But violent and aggressive. And it says revealed from the start. So this means early on. They started talking in January 2023. She says that the SA occurred in January 2025. But it says here she identified that he was violent, aggressive, and controlling early on, revealed from the start. Now, I'm not saying, just bear with me, don't beat me up. I'm not saying that she is quite plausible that she could have felt intimidated, wasn't, and didn't have the ability to leave because she was scared of his resources. I get all those arguments, but we got to look at it from both sides. That's one argument. The other argument is, okay, you found out he was violent and aggressive early on. Let's see now, how many opportunities did you have to escape? Because you were violent, he was aggressive, he secretly recorded you. You didn't leave after the bucket situation. So this is just both sides of the argument. All right. The first night plaintiff went to Sharp House, the experience was unlike anything she had dealt with before. Disturbing, unsettling, and given his subsequent conduct, very illuminating. When the plaintiff arrived at his house, Sharp opened the door to his Beverly Glen mansion without a word, no greeting, no acknowledgement, no small talk, without so much as looking at plaintiff. He simply turned away from her after opening the door and walked upstairs. Hey, hey, I'm not laughing at the incident, but hey, we've all been there. Be like, hey, when you come through, especially if it's late at night, when you come through, we ain't gonna be doing too much talking. No words. So, hey, that, considering what he's trying to do early on in the relationship, he's just looking, allegedly, according to this, like, yo, this is just gonna be a cheek clapping session. No words. Let's get straight upstairs where the magic goes down. All right, no words. He simply walked upstairs. The plaintiff hesitated but followed, as she did not know what else to do or where else to go. When they reached the bedroom, Sharp pointed to the bed before disappearing in the bathroom and shutting the door behind him. That's wild. He still had not said a word. Plaintiff sat on the bed, waiting, unsure of what to expect or if she should leave. Again, there's opportunities to leave, but the counter argument is she's 19 and this dude is 10,000 years old. She probably never been to a home that's nice before. This dude all swole, so it could be a little bit of like, can I go? So I see both sides. of the argument here. And right now, just on this introduction story, just on the introduction story, how they met in this first meeting, I can see how she would be intimidated by something like that. All right, he has still not said a word. Plaintiff sat on the bed, unsure what to expect and if she should leave. Roughly 5 minutes later, he finally emerged, but still said nothing. Instead, he turned off all the lights, laid down on the bed. Plaintiff, uncomfortable and unsure what to do, laid down as well. For roughly 10 minutes, there was nothing but silence. What the hell? That's crazy. This dude about to make a jacket out of your skin. Then, without warning, Sharp placed his hands on the plaintiff's neck from behind, pressed his uh, mushroom tip against her body, and said his first words of the night. I knew from the first time I saw you that I was going to clap your cheeks. Doe and Sharp then engaged in fellatio. As they did so, Doe at some point realized Sharp was using his phone. He was apparently recording her. Plaintiff could see that he was trying to be discreet, but it was obvious what he was doing. She said nothing, scared to confront him for what he might do or say. When it ended, he rolled over and went to sleep. At some point later during that night, Sharp woke up, grabbed Plaintiff by her sugar walls, and began to have another clap session with her. Now, again, we always got to look at it from both sides. I see the imbalance of power, the imbalance in the age, youth, and experience. The imbalance in physical stature, size, strength. I see all of that, but this is the very first meeting, and I'm a little confused because it says she said nothing, scared to confront him for what he might do or say. But at this point, y'all correct me if I'm wrong from everything that I read, this is the first meeting at their house. The only thing that she said that he did that was probably a little pushy was the NDA. Sign it, sign it. I'm not going to let you see it. Sign it, sign it. But I haven't seen anything outside of that when they talk about the start of the relationship in 2023 in this first instance. I don't see anything where she's saying anything related to him being violent. Was the NDA thing aggressive? It could have been the way it was described. It was described as more of an annoying and a nuisance as opposed to aggressive to me. Y'all let me know what y'all think. The next morning, Sharp woke up at 4 a.m. to shoot a media segment for sports television. He woke Plaintiff as well and told her she needed to leave, but he informed her that she had to be back by 9 p.m. exactly. The following night, Plaintiff arrived at Sharp's house at approximately 9:05. Okay. If she came back 5 minutes past that time, he demanded. The moment he opened the door, Plaintiff experienced his rage for the first time. Okay. All right. I think this is not written well. The first night they met, she talked about how she was scared to confront him for what he might do or say. But the next paragraph, the following night, when she was 5 minutes late, she said that this was the first time she experienced his rage. So everything up until the point where they had their fellatio session going on and they were doing the Star 69 thing, up until that point, she didn't say anything about violence and aggression, but she said she was scared to confront him for what he might do. That just is written inconsistent as hell for me. I don't know if y'all see that, but the next night when she shows up, she says this is the first time that she noticed his rage. Sharp immediately launched into a verbal assault. He screamed at Plaintiff, berating her for what felt like hours. He accused her of disrespecting him, wasting his time, and warned that if she wanted to be with the Shannon Sharp, she would have to learn obedience. Plaintiff was terrified and feared for her physical safety. Still enraged, Sharp turned off the lights, grabbed her neck, just like the night before, and began a cheek clapping session. This cycle of control, fear, and submission became routine, yelling at her, controlling her forcibly grabbing her by the neck when he got upset, saying he was going to delete her, and asserting dominance became the norm. All right, let me go. Let me see. Let me check the comments real quick. Let's see. Hey, wait. Let's to be fair. Don't we all like baby oil? It's like having Thanksgiving, you get the sweet rolls, two buttered sweet rolls side by side. You just want to bite them. Don't we all like a little baby oil every now and then? Yeah, here's Florida or the end. Let's be. I agree. Hey, I agree. It's a money grab. Why she didn't press criminal charges? We're gonna talk about that. Yeah, money grab indeed. Yep, and where his sex tape was aired with another person, that was all she needed. Yeah, I agree. There's no if in fact this did occur as alleged, even though these just allegations, it's still within the statute of limitations. If I were attorney and this young lady came into my office, honestly, what I would do is file a civil lawsuit, and I would be like, let's go. After I get all the information I need to file my lawsuit, I'd be like, go down to the police department and press charges. That's immediately what I would tell her to do. Because just think about it. If it's a civil lawsuit, I only need to convince 7 people out of 12 that this happened. If it's a criminal lawsuit, I need to convince 12 out of 12. A lot of times they have parallel proceedings. You got a criminal and a civil case going. The civil matter is actually continued because the criminal matter will likely resolve first. If the criminal matter resolves and he's found guilty, on the civil side, you don't even have to do anything. You like the dude was found guilty in criminal court. So that's what I would do. So I do think that's a huge red flag, considering this conduct allegedly occurred as early as January of 2025, and no police report was filed or appeared to have been filed. And if a police report was filed and they didn't press charges, that would actually be even. They didn't actually file the charges after the complaint because of a lack of evidence. That would be favorable to Shannon Sharp as well. If she didn't know who he was, how was she intimidated by a 54-year-old man? She would. She clearly knew who he was. Everybody knew who he was. I think that's cap. I think the way this is written is disingenuous. She said the first time she went over there, I was scared to say anything because I was scared of what he was going to do. He is a big guy. I will give her that big guy. So I'm going to give her some deference there, but this is just written poorly. She expressly said, I was sitting on the bed and I was scared of what he would say or do. They had their cheek clapping session. Then the next night, she says, this was the first time I seen him be violent and aggressive. So it's just given inconsistent to me. Let's see. An NDA is a Diddy move. Yep, I agree. Mm. Oh, it's a little bit of both, man. There's a little bit of both. I'm gonna put on a sensual mood, like, all right, let's go ahead and jump back and get through this complaint. All right, over the next year and a half, plaintiff saw Sharp at his house as often as 4 times a week. He continued to treat her like an object. You're 19, he's 52 and a multimillionaire, and you have the clothes you came in on. Yeah, yeah. Again, allegations, but yeah, you would probably be seen as an object. Like I said, I'm not wealthy. And if I had some 20-year-old girl, I would probably see her as an object. And I'm a relatively nice guy. I don't generally like to objectify or nothing like that. I'm just saying. He continued to control her, not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically. He demanded complete control over her time and body, expecting her to be at his house on his schedule at his command whenever he called. The verbal abuse never stopped. He would berate, degrade plaintiff just as he had from the beginning. One time specifically, he was yelling at her while there was a firearm visible in the room. All right, this is giving Diddy vibes right here. Allegedly. He was yelling at her while there was a firearm visibly in the room. Terrified for her safety, plaintiff tried sharing her location with friends from her iPhone just in case, but Sharp saw her doing this. The moment he realized what she was doing, he grabbed her by the neck and told her, if you ever do that again, I will effing kill you. Summer of 2024, Sharp's control turns abusive. The relationship becomes fearful and non consensual. All right, let's listen up to see. This is where, if the crime occurred, is during this time frame. Sharp's aggression and rage continued to escalate to the point that the plaintiff's friend began to fear for her safety. For example, when plaintiff was with her friends, they could hear Sharp yelling at her over the phone and would ask her if she was safe and ask if she's okay. In the summer of 2024, plaintiff and Sharp each moved to Las Vegas for their own reasons. What was her reason for moving to Las Vegas? Ah, y'all moved to Vegas for your own reasons. I'm sure he probably facilitated the cost. Like you found another job at a gym in Vegas that was better than the Planet Fitness you were working at. I don't know. I don't know. That sounds a little sketchy. Okay, we moved there each for their own reason. Nah, I don't believe that. I, these are allegations, but I don't believe that. You are working. I mean, maybe your family's independently wealthy. I don't know. That could be the case. Your parents could be loaded, but you were working at a gym and you say, you know what, I'm going to just jump up and move to Vegas for my own reasons. And then they don't state the reasons in here. If they don't state the reasons in here, I think the reason you moved to Vegas was because he told you, hey, you should move to Vegas. I want you to move to Vegas. And you likely said, okay. That's just, I'm just, hey, saying hypothetically. Again, not saying that she wasn't intimidated, but you moved there for your own reasons. Okay. Sharp liked to say that the plaintiff followed him to Vegas, but that too is a lie. Once in Vegas, Sharp again insisted that the plaintiff sign an NDA. She refused again. He persisted, but after enough resistance, he let it go and continued seeing her multiple times a week. His behavior did not change. He remained erratic, controlling, and verbally abusive, all while telling plaintiff that he was committed to a exclusive relationship with her. I just don't believe any grown ass man is telling a 19-year-old that we're in an exclusive relationship, and then when he go out and get some more yams, is coming back and lying to a 19-year-old about it. That's crazy. If he actually did that, that's actually crazy. Then in September 2024, Sharp humiliated plaintiff. He live streamed himself having a cheek clapping session with another woman on Instagram for over 1.1 million followers to see. He later made just of the incident on his podcast Club Shay Shay and show Nightcap. But for plaintiff, it was anything but funny. He had repeatedly assured her they were in an exclusive relationship, albeit unhealthy and abusive. That was a lie that not only hurt her emotionally, it made her fear for her health, her sexual health, at risk of an STD. At that point, plaintiff began to pull away from Sharp. She stopped answering his phone calls, stopped telling him where she was when he demanded to know. I actually think that makes her case weaker. All this stuff going on, he's secretly recording you. This is just me. Like the whole bucket thing is wild, but he's secretly recording you. He got his phone up, like bucket. Look what I'm doing over here, dog. Ah, look at your boy. She doing all this with bucket, and she comes back. See, all of this happens, but the straw that broke the camel's back was a video that you heard or saw an audio on Instagram. Like, I actually think this makes the story less believable to me. The straw that broke the camel back was I'm sure the only people who thought that this is just me. I'm just saying, hey, I'm not all allegations, and these are my just how I'm reading it. I think that the only people on the planet who thought that they were she was in an exclusive relationship with him was probably her. I don't think he thought that. She probably thought that, but she clearly knew it wasn't the case. All the verbal abuse, everything that she talked about, the Instagram thing was the straw that broke the camel back when she was like, you know what? I'm going to pull away. I think that actually weakens the story and weaken her argument as opposed to strengthen it, in my opinion. Like, you had the strength to pull away when you were embarrassed from an Instagram audio. I don't know. It's just I think it makes her story a little bit weaker, in my personal opinion. What's going on? What's going on, a man seeking truth? All right, let's go ahead and jump back into this. All right. At that point, she began to pull away. Plaintiff feeble attempts at freedom and independence further upset Sharp. He began flooding her phone calls, demanding to know where she was. He called relentlessly multiple times. The harassment became so unbearable, Nevada. Plaintiff frequently began leaving Nevada, determined to cut off communication, resist his efforts to control her, and attempt to regain some control of her life. It took courage for the plaintiff to make this effort. She remained terrified even though she was thousands of miles away. Sharp simply would not accept independence or freedom from plaintiff. In October 2024, just after plaintiff returned from Europe, Sharp's behavior became more angry, aggressive, and violent. October 6, 2024, Sharp assaults and grapes plaintiff, threatens, "I'm going to make it so no man will want you again." October 6, 2024, while working at a Nevada gym, there's the reason she left Nevada. So you mean to tell me you left wherever you were, California, wherever, to go to Nevada because you had another opportunity. And you didn't want to say what that opportunity was, but now we know what that opportunity was. You went to go from one Planet Fitness to 24-hour fitness or some variation of that. Do we believe that you went to Nevada on your own for your own opportunity, which was doing the same thing that you do? I don't think anybody believes that. Why is that pertinent? Because it if when you're writing a complaint, if there's things in the complaint that doesn't make sense, it goes to the allegations being disingenuous. And it's two or three things that we pointed out that just seems disingenuous, not based on fact, or as if it's being written trying to embellish or make something worse than what it was. All right. So while working, plaintiff was working out at a Nevada gym. What did she do while she was there? Did she work there too? I want to know what the fuck she was doing there. All right. She was working at a Nevada gym, following her usual routine. As she worked out, she saw Sharp aggressively approaching her. She could tell by his look and the way he moved quickly towards her that he was furious for having been ignored. As soon as he got close, he told her, "Sit the F down or I'm going to delete you." Plaintiff refused. "I don't want to talk to you. You cheated on me." His response was dismissive and controlling as usual. "You don't have a choice." Do y'all think, again, another thing that I think is inconsistent? Do you think someone who's responding and acting the way that she is saying and alleging he acted would actually go through the ridiculousness of lying to her about being in a committed relationship? Hell no. But there's no way in hell that this guy who said, "Sit down, you don't have a choice, do this, do that," is going to, you're his property. He doesn't feel the need to validate any type of, like monogamous relationship to you. He doesn't look at you as, according to what you wrote. So it just seems inconsistent to me. Sharp demanded that they talk in private. Again, plaintiff told him no. She made it clear she did not want to talk to him, be alone with him, or wanting to come to his home, but Sharp didn't care. He never took no for an answer. Sharp forced plaintiff under threat to get into his car and go to her house. Once Sharp was inside her apartment, plaintiff tried to keep the conversation in the living room, but Sharp refused. He demanded to go to the bedroom. She said no. He didn't listen, nor did he care. Once inside the bedroom, Sharp grabbed her from behind and forcibly positioned her for some bobble, what do you call them? Bobble doll action. He held her in place and then forced her to begin performing bobble doll action. He became even angrier and said, "You disrespect me so much. I'm going to punish. I'm going to punish these cheeks." Y'all can see what it said on the screen. "I'm going to make it so no man will want you again." Plaintiff at this point was crying and sobbing, tears running down her face. As Sharp repositioned her, blah blah blah. Okay, all right, forcing her. He said at one point, "Look at this. Look at my arm. I've got chills." That's how good this is. Shannon Sharp forced herself on a plaintiff, raped her despite her sobbing in agony as it happened. He told her in the moment that she was crying that the experience was so good it was giving him chills. Sharp's behavior demonstrated that he believed plaintiff to be his personal property, possessed and owned by him, which is inconsistent of someone who would waste his time telling a lie to make this young girl think that they were in an exclusive relationship. He also believed that the law did not apply to him, that he could take what he wanted, and that no one could or would stop him. He was and is wrong. On January 2025, another assault happens where he refused to strap up. January 2nd, 2025, plaintiff Sharp told plaintiff he wanted to see her. Sharp persistent, reminded plaintiff that he had a combined Christmas and birthday gift to give her, as he previously promised her a gift. She ultimately allowed him to come over to her apartment for the gift. She regrets the decision for fear. I don't know. Once inside her apartment, Sharp began undressing. Blah blah blah. I don't even want to read it. Demanding that he strap up. She knew that in the past he refused to and believed that her demand would stop him from having a cheek clapping session. But although he refused to use protection, he still insisted on clapping some cheeks. She tried to resist him. She screamed. She had already expressed concerns for her safety, knowing that he had been involved with other women, increasing the risk of an STD. Blah, blah, blah. Sharp grabbed her, repositioned her. Same thing as usual. I don't want to read all that. Claim for relief. Now she's seeking $50 million. Let me see something. All right. So let's look at these damages real quick before we see Shannon Sharp's response to this, which I actually think was a great strategy. General damages in the sum of $10,000, special damages in the sum of $10,000, punitive damages in the sum of 20 million. I said 10,000, 10 million, 10 million, 20 million, and statutory penalties in excess of 10 million. So general special damage, statutory damages is something that's by Nevada law that it could be for attorney fees or anything. That's statutory damages. Punitive damages are damages to punish the defendant for his conduct. Special damages and general damages. One form of damages is for the damages that could be the infliction of emotional distress, those type of things. The other damages are for lost wages, actual losses. There's no way this gym worker had $10 million in lost wages. So I think this number is a little bit high. The punitive damages, though, I don't think are high for something like this. It could be 20 million, 30 million, 50 million. It is up to the jury. Some states do have statutes that say punitive damages can't be more than 3 times the other damages. That may or may not be the case here. But that's the complaint. It's given a lot of inconsistencies to me. It's given being written in a way to kind of exacerbate some of his alleged violent tendencies. I think the biggest one for me was on that very first interaction. All right, let's go ahead and jump into what his response was. Let me check out some of these comments real quick. Interesting. Sharp's attorney says Sharp made an offer. And I'll tell you that's interesting because I'm gonna be honest, like if you're a multi-millionaire like Shannon Sharp, like just pay it, bro. Just pay whatever, 10 million. $10 million to Shannon Sharp is a lot of money, but that's nothing. The dude made $6 million off of the Cat Williams video alone. Like, I mean, nobody want to pay it, but it is a catch 22, right? And it depends on the client. Someone like Shannon Sharp, if it didn't in fact happen, because every client is going to say it didn't happen, but someone like Shannon Sharp, and when we take a look at what their response was to this, but someone like, if Diddy was like, I'm not settling, I would just tell him to settle. Just even I thought he should have settled the Cassie lawsuit when we first covered it. When I first covered it before he settled it in a day. I was like, I don't even know why this seen the light of day. So depending on the person, someone like Diddy, you need to settle that shit quick. Someone like Shannon Sharp, it actually may be worth standing on business on if you in fact didn't do it. You see, Jay-Z didn't settle when Busby came at him with some ridiculous ass lawsuit. So it really just depends on the client, the truthfulness of the client, the background of the client's propensity for capping and telling the truth. Yeah, he may lie all the time. Did he habitually screw people over, screw his artists over? Names is tied up in all sorts of murders and all sorts of crazy stuff. Settle, bro. You don't want nothing coming out. Somebody like Shannon Sharp, he has some stuff with women in the past, but generally he got a kind of clean. It may or may not be worth it. But if he offered 10 million and she didn't take it, I think she should have took it personally. I think she should have took it. Because if I offer you 10 million and you don't take it, and I know I didn't do it, I'm willing to spend 4 times that just to prove a point. That's just me. Yeah. Yeah. You know how Shannon Sharp was when he was going to pick up his little dog at the airport? He was low key trying to move so people couldn't see and identify who he was. They talking about his man purse, what kind of nail polish he had on. Nah, they may do an amended complaint to that. Now let's go ahead and pull up this article so we can see how his team responded. I think this was a beautiful response. I think that the response was, I think it was a great response. Let's go ahead and pull it up. All right, this is the New York Post. Let's zoom in real quick. All right, let's zoom in. Shannon Sharp lawyer releases X-rated text messages, name of accuser, in a $50 million civil lawsuit. Alleged text message between Shannon Sharp and a woman accusing him of this revealed X-rated missive she sent the NFL legend leading up to her bombshell $50 million lawsuit. The messages blasted out by Sharp's legal team include the accuser telling the former Denver Bronco 56 she wants him to put a dog collar around my neck. That's actually great for 2 reasons. Because, no, it's great for one reason because her sending text messages suggesting any type of aggressive, choking. Hey, who don't like a good choke? Ladies, y'all know y'all like a good choke. But any type of aggressive thing is actually great. Her sending a message saying, I want you to use a collar on me. I want you to do anything. Tie me up and rub a big ostrich feather on my back and tickle me. Any type of thing like that is actually good because now you're like, yo, you see, she has a track record of liking to do these aggressive things. Maybe we were doing role playing. Like low key, that's like, hey, role playing, I'm gonna be an international arts dealer and you can be a art thief and I'm gonna meet you at the bar. Stay in character. But he has those types of arguments when those text messages are put out. And tie me up and do bad things to me, as the ESPN personality defense lawyer named the plaintiff, who is only identified as Jane Doe in legal papers. A trove of purported messages clearly indicate the nature of their relationship was consensual and sexual in nature, and in many cases initiated with her specific graphic request, Sharp's attorney said. All right, it says the civil legal action was filed in Nevada. The claims thank blah, blah, blah. Okay, Sharp categorically denies the allegations and is ready for a legal fight, pointing to the alleged text as proof his client did nothing wrong. Davis says Sharp and the accuser had consensual encounters on January 2nd, 2025, which is when she's saying that the assault occurred. The day after, she allegedly asked for $25,000 per cheek. So let's get this right. On January 1st, New Year, she reaches out to him and says, hey, I'll see you, but it's 25K per cheek. That's wild. 25,000 per cheek is crazy work. 50K. Then on January 2nd, what happened? He actually goes over there Uh, Already, I think her case is fucked. This is just me. Up until January 2nd in her complaint, she talked about how she tried to avoid him, how she didn't want to be around him. She was scared because of his violent behavior. But a text message shows on January 1st, like, yeah, you could come through for 50K to clap these buns. Like, that's not giving someone who's in fear of their safety or their life or who's trying to maintain their distance. That's just me. I think those text messages were probably the best things that he could have released. Normally, I'm not a proponent of playing things out in the court of public opinion, but I think this was a good one. All right, before the message, Sharp wished her a happy new year and said if uh, Sharp wished her a happy new year and said if she sent him $50,000, she could come over to his house. Another alleged message states, and then she went over. Jane Doe lawyers hit back at the released text, claiming all the purported messages took place before the alleged assault. I think this is kicking their case in the nuts. Other adult only texts released by Sharp's team include when Jane Doe allegedly texts Sharp a photo of a woman tied up in a compromising position and wrote on March 5th, 2023, tie me up like this and clap these yams, with Sharp saying, if I knew how, I would. that's a that's a funny ass reply. It sounds like somebody 56 would reply. All right. She then allegedly wrote back, "It's okay. I have handcuffs. We can stick to those for now." Now, this is interesting because let me see. January. Okay. All right. Let's put this in context. We got to remember the dates. Okay. She sent them a message on March 5th of 2023. All right. They met in January. That first encounter was in January 2023. And she said that next night in January, she came back. And that was when she saw his propensity for violence and aggression when she was 5 minutes late. But in February, March, she's starting to realize early on that he has all these problems. But yet in March, you're like, yo, tie me up with this tie me up with this tie me up with this tie and pull out the ostrich feather and get some pop rocks and do some things to me. It's given inconsistent. The two allegedly exchanged kinky messages again in January 2024 when the accuser allegedly wrote that whatever, she just had the juice box situation going on, tie me up to do bad things to me. And Sharp wrote, cuff up. Jane Doe allegedly wrote, "You still have my handcuffs? I want like some hardcore BDSM action though." Oh man, bro, you too old to be dealing with this nonsense. Is that John Starks back there? That look like John Starks who used to play for the Knicks. But man, Shannon Sharp, you too old to be dealing with this foolishness. The two also talked about her desires to have a baby with him, including allegedly writing, "Only if you put a." Again, she's trying to. This is just me. This is just me as I'm reading this. I think the complaint is hella inconsistent. I think the complaint is written to over embellish things. I think between the text messages that were released and looking at the complaint, there are some inconsistencies. When she says she was trying to avoid the text messages, so that not only were you trying to avoid, you was down to get those cheeks clapped for 25K per yam. So I don't know. I think that I don't know. I think this thing is absolutely wild. Let me see. 100K, two cheeks or face as well. That's funny. If this case get thrown out, can he countersue? Man, he could countersue, but why the hell she broke as hell? What money? I just don't think she got any money. I don't think anybody Tony Bubsby represent got any independent money. I think it's all a money grab. I think for me, I always thought he was kind of given ambulance chasing type of guy. No shade on him, but when he filed that lawsuit against Jay-Z with the 13-year-old, where the date it was alleged Jay-Z wasn't even in the country, and her father couldn't corroborate all of these cockamamie things. Like that just proved to me what type of guy you are. Now, I don't think he can his I don't think there's a countersuit to be made against the plaintiff. I think the thing to be done is I would actually file a complaint with the Bar Association because you can lose your license for filing a frivolous lawsuit. I think this, in fact, is a frivolous lawsuit. I think if they would look at this in conjunction with that bogus Jay-Z lawsuit that didn't go anywhere, I think you got something where you could potentially probably not get this guy disbarred, but I would do something with the state bar to see if I can get this dude suspended. Oh. Nah, my mother, she probably ain't watching this one. It's past her bedtime anyway. So it's past her bedtime anyway, Paul. He should have cut that off at the first mention of baby at 50 plus with a 20-year-old. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And I hate to say this, he this is a self-inflicted wound. He literally self-inflicted wound and signed up to become a crash test dummy. So like there's nothing when you reach a certain status of wealth and fame, because if you're wealthy but you're not famous, no one can probably know really unless you just flaunt it in a very affluent way. But when you have wealth and fame, there's just certain things that you shouldn't do because those are situations that pose way more risk than reward. And so I don't know. I think is a goofy, but he brought this entire situation on himself because he was thinking with the wrong head. Bro, you 56 years old. I'm not saying you should settle down, like, because I know you rich as hell. You gonna want to party and want to do some things. I get all that, but 19 is kind of wild, bro. Like 19 is kind of wild to be 56. Maybe it's just me, but like I don't know, like bro, I don't know. Maybe like 27 and up, like give yourself a little bit of leverage to deal with a woman who is a little bit more mature. Not saying that this can't happen, not saying that these aren't schemes that are duped because these type of things unfortunately happen all the time and sometimes they're planned by possibly attorneys, possibly boyfriends, possibly other persons. It's a sad game, but this dude really set himself up for failure. Um, y'all let me know what y'all think about this in the comments. I think it's actually generally capped. If she got offered 10 million per that report, as you said, I think she should have took it. I think they did themselves a big disservice not to take it, especially when the text messages were released. Real quick, I just want to show this again. This is what we're going to talk about tomorrow. I just said it. Sometimes these type of schemes are facilitated individually by the victims are doing this as a money grab. Sometimes these accusations could have some truth behind them. Sometimes there are attorneys who push these complaints to try to find other victims and maybe get some type of settlement and a money grab effort. Sometimes the boyfriend of the victim may push for the conduct, the interaction with the wealthy person, the target, to make this happen. And in that vein, we're talking about boyfriends who are pushing women to do things. This is what we're going to talk about on tomorrow live stream. It's actually a sad ass fucking story. I don't know if you all heard it, but we're going to talk about this story right here on tomorrow live stream at 8 p.m. I'm going to cover it. A single dad got clapped when he was in the process of trying to actually meet a young lady and clap some cheeks eventually. And her boyfriend appear to have set this whole thing up. So we're going to dive in, talk about that case, talk about how law enforcement uses cell phone data and triangulation to identify where people are for purposes of determining location when crimes are committed. But this was an actual crazy story. This is what we're going to talk about tomorrow on the live stream. As always, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you I meant to say this during the when I was reading the complaint, but the older you get as a guy, the less crazy things that you can say to a female. Like if you're like 22 years old, you can say something to a female that like it may be on the borderline between a compliment, a flirt, and kind of over the top. But if you're 22, young, a young handsome guy, and you say it, sometimes people just gonna be like, "Oh, it's just a young handsome guy saying it." That same thing being said by a 56-year-old man, they gonna go to HR on your ass. They gonna go to HR. I know. I'm in my 40s. Okay, you can't just compliment and say certain things when you're in your 40s. When you're in your 20s, people will be like, "Oh, that's just." But no, once you the same thing that a 20-year-old says, if a 56-year-old says it, they going directly to HR on you, and it's going to be a problem. Yo, y'all have a good evening. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Make sure y'all tune in tomorrow where we're going to cover that story. It's going to be an interesting topic. Y'all have a good one. Be safe. Thank you, and be blessed. Peace.